Britannia, the edge of the Roman Empire. Today, only the remains of monumental edifices echo a once mighty civilization that could reach such distant shores, standing in contrast to the stunningly preserved vestiges of empire that reflect the wealth and importance of its former provinces, Africa, Egypt, and Syria. The archaeology of Britannia is no less imposing, but it is the island's rich landscape that enhances the beauty of remnants exposed to the ravages of a climate that the Mediterranean never had to endure. In this video, we'll take an aerial tour of some of the best preserved sites for Roman archaeology in this once distant province, and give a short commentary on the story of the Romans in Britain. Drones really provide a visual appreciation for the impact this civilization made on the British Isles. I can't cover the whole island with the footage presently available, but hope that what you see here provides a taste of the rich archaeological legacy left to us by the Romans. This channel is passionate about history and some of the more curious events of days gone by, so if that is of interest to you, I'd love to have you subscribe for more content and to keep up to date with documentaries and mysterious facts about the past. If you're interested in the Romans, check out our series on Roman emperors, and let me know in the comments if there is anything in this video you'd be interested in hearing about in a more comprehensive documentary. In the classical world, Britannia was a land of mystery. It was known to the Greeks, but some explorers still doubted its existence. When some of Tiberius's ships were carried to Britain in a storm during his campaigns in Germany in 16 CE, they still came back with tales of monsters, even after Rome's legendary general, Julius Caesar, had led an expedition to its shores, beyond the limits of the Roman world, and established client kingdoms. Britain was not invaded for its wealth. It wasn't even of any strategic military importance. This was no buffer against a competing military state in the same way Parthia was in the east. Strabo had argued that taxes on trade between its tribes and Rome brought more annual revenue than any conquest ever could. However, decades of incremental conquests, beginning in 43 CE, saw it absorbed into the empire simply because of political expedience. Claudius needed a Herculean triumph to strengthen his claim to the throne and solidify the support of the army, and a land that not even Julius Caesar could subjugate provided the necessary kudos. The need to balance the treasury after Caligula's prolific reign would also no doubt have been an attractive benefit, but if we are to believe Rome's version of events, then it was simply coming to the assistance of an overthrown tribal king and ally. But then again, the Romans always found a pretext to justify invasions. The military expenditure required to maintain the province was arguably disproportionate to its long-term financial value to the empire. Evidence from coins demonstrates how constant revolts and even breakaways from the empire provided numerous excuses for successive emperors to claim victories for Rome. Boudicca's uprising being the most notable of them all, and which is said to have driven Nero to consider abandoning the island altogether. For much of the history of Roman Britain, a large number of soldiers were garrisoned on the island in case of uprisings by the native Celtic tribes and to counter invasion by the Picts and Scots. In order to maintain this security, the province required the presence of 3 legions, but command of these forces provided an ideal power base for ambitious rivals. This required that the emperor station a trusted senior man as governor of the province. As a result, many future emperors served as governors or legates in the province, including Vespasian. Deploying those legions elsewhere would strip the island of its garrison and leave the island defenseless. Inevitably, Britannia became a starting point to attaining the imperial throne, with such power generating several rival emperors, not least Constantine. It is for this reason that the legions have had the most impact on Roman Britain, and whilst there are luxurious villas in the south and west of England, it is Rome's military presence that has printed the greater archaeological footprint on Britain's surface. The legionary cities of Isca Augusta, Caerleon, Diva, Chester, and Eboracum, York, were permanent additions to the landscape in the west and north. Arguably the most impressive, although not representative of the farthest extent of Rome's dominion, is Hadrian's Wall and its magnificent system of fortifications, probably constructed to control trade and exchange as much as for the defense against the Caledonians. Hardknott Fort in Cumbria is a lesser-known, but no less imposing, construction carried out during the reign of Hadrian, known to the Romans as the fort of Mediobogdum, and built between 120 and 138 CE on an isolated rocky spur overlooking the River Esk. This majestic fortification once controlled the road from Ravenglass through the high fells to forts at Ambleside and Kendal, now commanding magnificent views of the landscape. What truly makes Hardknott Fort remarkable is its levelled military parade ground, perhaps the finest surviving example in Western Europe. The decline of Roman Britain had a significant impact on its eastern shores. The second half of the 4th century witnessed economic decline as well as political and military instability in northeast Gaul and the Rhineland. Stress on the frontiers was constant, but attacks now came not only from the Scotti, or Irish, in the west, but from the Saxons as well. A series of shore forts were constructed to defend the eastern coasts against raids. The Notitia Dignitatum, a late Roman document, mentions 9 forts stretching from Norfolk to Hampshire, but the fortification chain was undoubtedly greater in extent. Some of these forts have fallen victim to the sea, but others have survived the ravages of time and the quarrying of stone for buildings. The partial circuit walls are well preserved at Berk Castle, whilst at Pevensey, the Normans constructed a stone keep within its Roman walls. It is at Portchester that we find the fort walls standing at close to original height, said to be the best preserved Roman fort north of the Alps. It owes its remarkable state of conservation for near continuous occupation. Firstly, as the outer bailey of a Norman castle, a medieval palace, and then a jail during the Napoleonic Wars. Most of its bastions are complete, and from the outside, the walls appear much as they would have done to the Romans. Roman Britain above all else, was more a military domain than a fully Romanized province, and it is these forts and ramparts the soldiers left behind that have left a magnificent and indelible impression on our geography and history.